Hey, this is Cameron. Welcome back to the Busy Gardener channel. Today I'm joined with Kevin from Epic Gardening.
What's up, everyone?
And lots of people, when they are starting out in gardening, they wonder, what kind of method can I use? I don't have a big farm. I don't have all of this space. So today we're going to talk through 3 methods that work really well for the backyard grower. Let's get busy. So Kevin, you've got a lot of experience growing in small spaces. You had a really small, square footage wise from where you moved from before,
Yeah.
what were you working with?
I mean, even the garden we're seeing right here is much bigger than the one I was working with. I had maybe 15 feet by about 30 feet in a small urban front yard. And so I try to bring some of that back here because I know that not everyone now is in this sprawling space that I have now, which is about 13,000 square foot of almost completely empty space, as you see.
Yeah.
And so, right here we have some simple container gardens. These are some grow bags. Of course, any container will do. I really like grow bags for a bunch of different reasons. But even, there's variety within grow bags themselves. You've got these more classic ones like 7, 10, 15 gallons. And then this is an 100-gallon grow bag that I almost just call like a pop-up raised bed or like a renter garden raised bed.
Yeah.
Because let's say I'm done with this, right? And I'm moving to a new place. Dump the soil out, harvest it all out, roll this up, and unroll it in a new place, and you've got a garden. So I've got mustard growing in here. I've got Chinese cabbage. I've got a purple style mustard. I've got kale. And this is honestly enough food for salads for at least a week for a family, just right there.
Yeah, and we touched on it in another video, some of the benefits of using these grow bags as a planting method.
Yeah.
Super great for people who, like you say, just a pop-up grazed bed, whether it be a big one like this or even like some of these smaller ones here.
Yeah, right here you just got varieties, right? We've got some purple lady bok choy, you've got nasturtium, these multi-bags that we've talked about, we've got some herbs and greens there, but you can grow pretty much anything. I've got celery over here, I've got pineapple sage right there. Of course, mint, give it its own container, it's gonna go crazy, right?
I know.
So mint's got its own container. You can do pretty much anything. You can create a irrigation network for this if you want to. You can water it by hand. Any sort of dimension you want to create with grow bags, the world's kind of your oyster on that.
And you've got some options here too, because unlike terracotta pots, you've got these handles in a lot of cases.
Yep.
So it gives you a lot of flexibility. So for like the backyard grower who isn't doing a bunch of stuff with their land, they have flexibility. You can move these out of the way.
Yeah.
Neighbors' kids are coming over, you can go hide them.
Sure, yeah.
And
Or
put them
you're an
back.
apartment gardener, or you've got, mostly paved backyards like a lot of people have in their house. Boom, put some grow bags on top, maybe a little liner to protect the concrete, and you're growing again, and you don't have to build some sort of fancy system.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed that there is an in-ground method that's right next to this. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about what we've got going on here?
So there's a couple in-ground things I'm doing. This one is what you call a no-dig garden, which, as the name implies, you don't go down into the soil too much. What you'll typically do, and what I did in this space is, I deal with a lot of Bermuda grass here, so I've got my wood chips down as a mulch, but Bermuda is pretty gnarly, and it'll get through that. And so what I did here is I cleared away my wood chip mulch in this little patch here, about 4 by 8 foot, right? And then I did clear some of the Bermuda, but even if you cut it down, it's still coming back. And so I threw cardboard down as a sheet mulch.
Smother it
out. And at the very least, it's not going to come up in this area. It'll probably creep to the sides, but that's fine because I'm not growing anything there. And then what I did is I mixed just some compost, some standard raised bed mix, some garden soil type of stuff together, and boom, I just laid it straight on top. I've got these little guardrails just to form the bed up, but you could, if you wanted to, move these away completely and you're in a good spot. So you can grow perfectly like this. And the idea here is you only ever amend over the top once you harvest out. You don't then dig in and till it up and anything like that. So you're going to smother the weeds out. You work with a good soil and you just improve over time. And what you'll find is the cardboard will end up decomposing. You'll get nice worm activity there. And eventually you've smothered the weeds out and the soil below is actually started to transform as well. So it's a really good method if you have the space in your home garden.
Yeah, this seems like a really low maintenance way to do this. The draw here is that you're able to have some of the benefits of it being on the ground, this big kind of bed in one single space.
Agree.
But without all of the limitations of having to go through and amend all of this stuff and dig it up.
Sure. The benefit you're going to see, Cameron, is compared to like a grow bag, you still got to provide all that soil, right? In this situation, you have to build it up a little bit. Maybe add some compost and stuff, but after that, your soil costs are pretty low. Your maintenance it's a great way if you have a lot of square footage to transform a space. Because if you're going, we're going to talk about some methods later that are a lot higher, right? A lot more soil use.
Yeah.
It's a lot cheaper to do a no-dig style approach. So there's a lot of different methods.
I love how light the soil is here too. And that maybe is also an advantage over digging into, let's say, the clay soil that you have beneath here as well.
Right. And so, and again, like you can perfect your soil mix a little bit. So I found that the initial mix I put in this section was a little too heavy. It was a little too water retentive. So I had to add some pumice in here to lighten it up just a little bit. And then the plants are really starting to take off. And so you fix the problem pretty quickly.
Well, I am intrigued by what we have growing on over here. So let's walk over here and maybe you can tell us about some of these containers.
So these are the beds that I really, really love. I'm obsessed with them actually, to the point where I've now become the distributor for them here. But they're called Birdie's beds, but really it's just a raised bed. There's nothing fancy about them. They hold soil, and they hold soil pretty high in this case. You're a tall guy, I'm a tall guy. For me, I want easy working in my vegetable garden. This is really close to the front door of my house. It makes it easy and low friction, which I think for a beginner gardener or a busy gardener,
absolutely.
You want ease. And so I can come out, I harvest my kale, pull my beets, and again, I'm 6'4", and I don't really have to do a whole lot of heavy lift here. So with raised beds, you're going to get accessibility, but on top of that, you're going to get to pick the perfect soil, right? So whatever soil that your plants need, maybe you're doing blueberries in here, you do a low pH mix, and you don't have to dig into the soil and amend it forever, and the pH will always rise on you and all those problems, you know? And then on top of that, let's say you're in a cold climate and you got a 30-inch tall raised bed, it's gonna get hit by the sun a lot sooner in the spring, right? And it's gonna get hit by the sun a lot later in the fall. And so effectively you extend your season, right?
Yes.
Because you're elevated. And so you'll find you can start seeds earlier, you can grow things later in a raised bed. So a lot of different benefits. And again, just for a small space gardener, it's a compact way to grow a lot.
Wonderful. There's a lot of volume here. So if you're also wanting to do stuff that's like tubers and root stuff, you've got the depth.
You can go deep. Yeah. And so a couple things on that. That's a great point. Like if you're growing a really big carrot or some big potato bed, then yeah, you've got a ton of space down here. But if you're thinking that, I'm sure probably some of you are thinking that's a lot of money to spend on soil. Am I going to just blow my paycheck on that? No, you can take logs, you can take sticks and twigs and chips and fill up maybe the bottom 60%, then do a good mix for the last 40 or so. And you've spent effectively the same amount you'd spend on a low bed, but you get that accessibility. So that's what I like to do.
And actually, we're going to be doing a promo code, right, for Busy Gardener viewers. So we'll throw that in at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. You've got an interesting thing in the back that I'd like to check out. So we're going to run over there and take a look at what that is.
Let's do it.
We have come here to these interesting rows. Can you tell us about what you've got going on here?
So this is probably one of my favorite crops to grow ever, which is potatoes. Very simple crop, but 6 different varieties, 6 rows. And you're right, this is a in-ground planting, which is, I guess, somewhat similar to the no-dig bed, but I did dig this out because I've planted them in the ground. And so with potatoes and other sort of crops like this, you can use I call it the Ruth Stout method. She's an old gardener from the early 1900s who basically just said, I want to do almost no work. And that was her whole impetus to grow.
I like it.
Yeah, me too. I'm obsessed with it. And so potatoes were sort of one of the things she was really known for. So what she used to do, and this is a modified version of what she does, but what she used to do is just, she'd have hay, this is straw, there's a difference between the two, but she would just drop potatoes on the ground, full potatoes that were just starting to sprout, cover them with a foot of hay, and then she would just let life happen, just let things go. I'm a little bit more particular than that, but if you've grown potatoes, you know that the common wisdom is to what's called hill them up, because you put a seed potato in the ground, it starts to sprout, the sprout comes out of the ground, and the difference in length between the seed potato and the top, that's where your new potatoes will form. And so people will say, well, keep covering it with dirt so it has more ability to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so what Ruth Stout found is actually you can still get a really good harvest, but spend nearly 0 time if you just don't do that. And so what I've done here is just plant these potatoes about 6 inches deep. I've covered them up with this shredded straw mulch here, which is just to keep that moisture in. And I'm not gonna touch them. I'm gonna water them in as I need to. If I get rain, I won't. And I'll get, each of these potatoes should produce at least 5 potatoes. So you get like a 5 to 10x multiplier on your weight. I put in about 25 pounds. I'm probably gonna get over 100 pounds of potatoes out of here.
Wow.
And that's easy. It took me 2 hours to set up, taking me probably 10 minutes since then.
And so that's kind of the name of the game with a lot of this stuff, is how do you get the most result out of not having to do tons and tons of work. I mean, that's an ideal thing for a busy person.
100%.
And so something where you're able to get 80, 90% of whatever the normal yield would be with, only 20% of the work is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take the trade-off all day. And honestly, in 2019, I did this challenge where I was trying to live off my garden. So I grew potatoes, obviously, because you got to grow calories. I grew potatoes in 5 different ways. I grew them in containers like we've talked about, grew them in the grow bags, grew them in raised beds. I grew them in the ground trying to hill them. I grew them in the ground without hilling them. And surprisingly, the ones in the ground without hilling them, I got the same yield as in ground with or any of the other methods, even better than some for literally no work. So why not?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, this actually inspires me to find a plot of ground in our space to do this type of method, because we've got a lot more space than we did before in terms of usable area.
Yeah.
So can't wait to try this. Yeah, we want to give that the promo code for the Birdie's beds.
Yeah,
those things are really impressive. It's interesting because as I've followed like social media, I've seen the quality of those seem apparent, but in person they're actually really, really stout.
Yeah, what's crazy about them is the price of wood has now skyrocketed, right? And so I used to say they're going to last 2, 3, 4, 5 times longer than wood, and they're roughly the same price, and now they're cheaper than wood, and they're going to last way longer.
Yeah.
So, I don't have anything against a wood bed. I've grown in wood beds. There's a wood bed right over there. But for me, for rentability, they're panelized. You can deconstruct the panels, move them to a new place, bring them back up. They're unbeatable to me, and I've used them for 4 or 5 years now and now distribute. So yeah, we got a code, 10% off if you use the code GetBusy, all one word. And boom, yeah,
where can they find it?
Yeah, this is shop.epicgardening.com. So we'll toss a link down now. Toss a link down, and yeah, just trying to show as many different ways to grow as possible.
That's awesome. Well, appreciate you, Kevin, sharing this stuff. 3 main ways to grow in the backyard. We have those raised beds. We've got the no dig or little dig in the ground, and we have those fabric pot or grow bags. So hey, appreciate you tuning into this episode of The Busy Gardener. And whether you've got 1 plant you're trying to grow in the ground or in a bag or in a raised bed or 500, until next time, stay busy.